Somebody is standing in a dealership right now, staring at a shiny SUV with a clean history report and a factory warranty sticker still on the glass. And they're convinced they just found years of stress-free driving. No stress, no surprise bills, just a nice, easy family SUV. I wonder how are thousands of careful, responsible buyers about to drive off the lot in one of the lowest-rated SUVs in America without having any idea they just signed up for a second car payment made of repair bills. Because that's what's happening out there right now. SUVs have gotten wildly more complicated in the last few years. Tiny turbocharged three-cylinder engines doing the work that used to belong to a V6, plug-in hybrid systems with two separate power sources trying to talk to each other, CVTs, dual-clutch transmissions that hate stop-and-go traffic, and software running almost everything, from your climate control to the actual power flow between your battery and your wheels. Automakers love to call this progress. Ownership data, recall filings, and actual mechanics tell a very different story. Starting things off at number 10, the Volkswagen Taos. On paper, this thing looks like the smart pick. Small, efficient German badge on the hood. That engineered like no other car reputation VW has been selling Americans for decades. In practice, the Taos has struggled with electrical gremlins that show up as dead infotainment screens, sensor faults that trigger warning lights for no obvious reason, and diagnostic bills that run higher than you'd expect for a compact crossover, because European electronics aren't cheap to troubleshoot at your average shop. Consumer Reports has flagged the Taos with below-average predicted reliability more than once. And here's the twist people don't expect. Even after VW swapped out the old dual-clutch transmission for a more conventional automatic in later years, the electrical issues never really went away. You can fix the transmission. You can't always fix a reputation for gremlins hiding in the wiring. Here's what makes the Taos an especially sneaky trap. Buyers walk in assuming a small, simple crossover means a small, simple bill if anything ever goes wrong. It doesn't really work that way. A lot of independent shops are hesitant to dig into VW electrical faults because the wiring architecture and diagnostic software are proprietary enough that you often need dealer-level equipment just to trace where the fault is coming from. So a problem that might take 20 minutes to diagnose on a mainstream Japanese crossover can turn into a multi-hour billable job on a Taos. And that's before anybody's even ordered the part. Number 9 belongs to a pair of siblings, the Ford Bronco Sport and the Ford Escape, both leaning on that 1.5-liter turbocharged three-cylinder engine. Think about that for a second. 3 cylinders, turbocharged, hauling around a 2-ton crossover through daily traffic, road trips, and every hot Texas summer or freezing Minnesota winter you can throw at it. Small engines working that hard tend to run hotter and wear faster, and owners have reported turbo failures along with head gasket problems showing up well before you'd expect major engine work on a modern vehicle. Ford has also dealt with fire-related recalls tied to this engine family, which is about as serious as a reliability flag gets. Add in some reported hesitation and rough shifts from the transmission, and you've got a formula where the engine that was supposed to save you money at the pump ends up costing you at the dealership instead. And that's the trap with tiny turbo engines in general, not just Ford's. A small displacement engine under boost is basically working overtime for its entire life. Every trip up a highway on-ramp, every merge, every hill, that turbo is spinning hot and the engine internals are under more stress than a bigger, naturally aspirated engine would ever see doing the same job. Manufacturers downsize engines to hit fuel economy targets, and that's a real benefit at the pump. Nobody puts shorter engine lifespan on the window sticker. Number 8 is where things get genuinely surprising because it's a brand people don't expect to see on a list like this. The Mazda CX-90 and its smaller cousin, the CX-70 plug-in hybrid. Mazda built its reputation on the CX-5, a compact SUV that's consistently one of the most dependable vehicles you can buy. So when the CX-90 PHEV showed up with software glitches, a transmission that some owners describe as rough or hesitant at low speeds, and reports of the vehicle dropping into limp mode unexpectedly, it caught a lot of loyal Mazda buyers off guard. This is a brand new platform paired with a genuinely complex plug-in hybrid system. And first-generation tech like that almost always comes with growing pains. The uncomfortable truth is, if you buy one of the early build years, you're not just a customer. You're an unpaid beta tester for Mazda's most ambitious powertrain yet. And that stings a little more than it would with most brands, because Mazda spent years building genuine trust with buyers who wanted something more engaging than a Camry without sacrificing dependability. The CX-90 asked those same loyal buyers to trust a platform with zero long-term track record, paired with the most complex drivetrain Mazda has ever put into production. Some of them are getting a smooth, trouble-free ride. Others are learning what it feels like to have your family SUV drop into a reduced power mode on the highway with no warning at all. Number 7, and we're staying in Wolfsburg for this one, the Volkswagen Atlas. This is VW's big 3-row family hauler, and it's had a rough go of it. Owners report the same kind of electrical gremlins that plague the Taos, plus brake wear that seems to happen faster than it should, and fuel economy that isn't especially impressive for the size of the vehicle. VW also swapped the smooth, torque-rich VR6 engine for a turbocharged 4-cylinder in more recent years, which helped fuel numbers a little but didn't do much for the driving experience or, frankly, the complaints. And once that factory warranty runs out, Atlas owners often find themselves facing repair estimates that make a 3-row Toyota or Honda look like a bargain in hindsight. Combine that with steep depreciation, and you've got a vehicle that costs you coming and going. There's a version of the Atlas story that plays out over and over on used car lots. A family buys one brand new, loves the space, loves the way it drives, and trades it in 3 years later for something that just feels less stressful to own, often at a loss that surprises them when they see the numbers on the trade-in sheet. Then the next family buys it used, assuming somebody else already worked out the kinks, only to discover the same electrical quirks are still very much present. Number 6 takes us to Nissan and the Rogue, one of the best-selling SUVs in the entire country. The Rogue pairs a variable compression turbocharged engine, Nissan calls it VC Turbo, with a continuously variable transmission. Each of those technologies is complicated on its own. A CVT alone has a long history of overheating and premature wear in Nissan's lineup. Now put a variable compression engine on top of that, an engine that's constantly adjusting its own compression ratio for efficiency, and you've stacked 2 genuinely intricate systems on top of each other in a mainstream family SUV. When one complicated system fails, it's a headache. When 2 complicated systems are working together and something goes wrong, good luck figuring which one started it. This is the part that really gets overlooked when people shop for a Rogue. It's one of the safest feeling purchases in America, right up there with anything wearing a Toyota badge in terms of how mainstream it feels. But mainstream doesn't mean simple anymore. Nissan's had well-documented CVT durability complaints going back over a decade across multiple models, and layering a variable compression engine on top of that older weak point doesn't inspire a ton of confidence for anyone planning to keep the vehicle past the 100,000-mile mark. Number 5 is a pair of EVs that a lot of green-minded families have been eyeing, the Kia EV9 and EV6. These share Hyundai's eGMP electric platform, and that platform has one specific, well-documented weak point called the ICCU, the Integrated Charging Control Unit. It's the part that manages the flow of power between the high-voltage battery, the 12-volt system, and the outside world. When it fails, drivers get a check electric vehicle system warning, sometimes preceded by a pop, and the car can lose power entirely, sometimes needing a tow. Kia and Hyundai together recalled over 200,000 vehicles for this exact issue. The companies estimate somewhere around 1 to 2% of affected vehicles actually experience a failure, though owner surveys from Consumer Reports have found charging-related complaint rates running noticeably higher than that across the model years, and higher than almost any other EV on the market. There's also a class action lawsuit alleging that even the replacement units aren't fully solving the problem. And here's the part that stings even more. EVs like the EV9 and EV6 are depreciating faster than most gas SUVs. So even if you never experience an ICCU failure yourself, the resale math is already working against you. Number 4 brings us to a pair of corporate twins, the GMC Terrain and the Chevrolet Equinox. Owners have reported fuel injector failures, along with transmission trouble, that GM itself acknowledged through a service bulletin covering certain 2024 Terrain and Acadia models with an internal clutch component built out of spec. There have also been complaints about body control module failures, the little computer that manages things like your lights, locks, and power windows, which can turn into a maddening list of small, unrelated-seeming electrical problems. Compare the total cost of keeping one of these on the road against a Toyota RAV4 or a Honda CR-V over 5 years, and the gap in unscheduled repairs isn't close. What makes this pair especially frustrating is how average they feel to drive. Nothing about the Terrain or Equinox screams trouble the day you buy it. That's exactly why so many owners get blindsided. There's no dramatic warning sign in year 1. It's usually somewhere around year 3 or 4, right after the factory warranty expires, that the injector or the transmission or the body control module decides it's had enough, and suddenly a vehicle that felt perfectly ordinary is generating a repair estimate that feels anything but ordinary. Number 3 is the Jeep Grand Cherokee, including the 4xe plug-in hybrid version. Jeep's had ongoing struggles with electrical failures across its modern lineup, and the Grand Cherokee is no exception, with owners reporting dead touchscreens, malfunctioning warning systems, and suspension components wearing out earlier than they should. The 4se adds hybrid battery and charging complexity on top of an already electronics-heavy SUV. And here's a cost that almost nobody accounts for when they're shopping: downtime. Jeep dealers have been dealing with parts shortages and long wait times for certain repairs, which means when something breaks, you're not looking at a quick fix. You're looking at weeks without your SUV, sometimes longer, and that's a real financial and logistical cost, even if the repair itself is covered under warranty. Think about what that actually means for a one-vehicle family. It's not just the repair bill you have to budget for. It's the rental car, or the ride shares, or the daily juggling act of getting kids to school without your SUV for 3 or 4 weeks straight. None of that shows up on a window sticker at the dealership, but it's every bit as real a cost as anything happening under the hood. Number 2, and this one genuinely surprised a lot of GM loyalists, the GMC Acadia. It got a full ground-up redesign for the 2024 model year, a bigger cabin and a punchy turbocharged 4-cylinder replacing the old V6. Sounds great on paper. In practice, Consumer Reports actually pulled its recommended rating from the redesigned Acadia after survey data came back showing recurring transmission problems, brake issues, and electrical accessory failures. There are documented cases of brand new Acadias needing transmission replacement before the vehicle even hit 1,000 miles. That's not a high mileage wear issue, that's a fresh off-the-truck problem. And it's a pretty clean example of a rule that applies across the entire auto industry. The first model year of a full redesign is almost always the riskiest one to buy because the manufacturer is essentially working out the bugs on real customers. And now, number 1. The vehicle that mechanics have started warning people away from before they even finish test driving it, the Dodge Hornet. The Hornet is built on the same platform as the Alfa Romeo Tonale, which itself traces back to Fiat engineering, and it's assembled in Italy rather than at a domestic Dodge plant. The hybrid RST version pairs a small turbo engine with a plug-in system and a dual-clutch transmission, and owners have reported jerky, hesitant shifting, especially in cold weather. But the issue that keeps coming up again and again is electrical. Complete dead battery failures on nearly new vehicles, central touchscreens going completely dark mid-drive. Some owners have documented 5 separate instances of total power loss on the same vehicle, even after recall repairs were supposedly completed. And the market has noticed. The Hornet has sat on dealer lots for months at a time, with some reports putting average inventory well above 10 times the industry norm, which is about as clear a signal as you'll get that buyers are staying away. Stellantis actually discontinued the Hornet after the 2025 model year. Some estimates put its 5-year depreciation in the low 40s percentage-wise, worse than most of its competitors. So when you see a Hornet sitting on a lot with a huge discount slapped on the window, understand what that discount actually is. It's not a gift. It's Dodge shifting the cost of an unfinished vehicle from their balance sheet onto yours. If you're finding this useful, go ahead and hit subscribe. We spend real hours digging through recall filings and reliability data so you don't end up quietly paying for somebody else's engineering mistake 3 years down the road. One more thing before the takeaway, because I think it matters. Almost none of the vehicles on this list are bad because the people building them are lazy or careless. Most of them are bad because the industry is racing towards smaller engines, more electrification, and more software, faster than the reliability engineering can keep up. That's not an excuse. It's just useful context because it means this problem isn't going away next year. If anything, it's going to keep showing up in new places as more brands rush new technology to market before it's fully proven. So here's the one rule I want you to walk away with. The more complicated a vehicle becomes, the more expensive every single repair becomes, because now there isn't just one system that can fail. There are 3 or 4 systems that all have to work perfectly together. When you're shopping, stop making decisions based on the monthly payment, the size of the touchscreen, the horsepower number, or how big a discount the dealer is dangling in front of you. None of those tell you what year 4 or year 5 is actually going to cost. Instead, look at long-term reliability data, how fast the vehicle depreciates, how often it actually needs repairs, and what parts cost when something does go wrong. Know somebody who's about to walk onto a lot and sign paperwork on one of these? Send them this video before they do. Seriously, it might save them thousands of dollars. And remember this the next time you see an SUV that's been sitting on a dealer lot for months with a huge price cut attached to it, especially one that also scores poorly on reliability. That's not automatically a bargain. Sometimes it's just the manufacturer finding a way to hand you tomorrow's repair bill today, wrapped up in a shiny new discount. If this video helped you dodge one bad purchase, that's exactly why this channel exists. So go ahead and subscribe, because there's always another one of these stories waiting to be told.